I'm Dave of Zippy Flies at Clearwater Fly Shop, and today we're going to tie the Tarpon Toad. Okay, so to tie this Tarpon Toad, we're going to start off with an Umpqua Tiemco TMC 600 SP in size 1/0. 1/0 is a little bit on the larger size for what I typically like to tie for our area. It's not uncommon that toads can be tied in significantly larger sizes, but I think you'll find 1/0, 1s and 2s are commonly used. So that's the rationale for using that size. Plus it's a little easier to see with a little bit larger hook. I'm going to start off by just laying down a good thread base. Don't have to get real pretty with this, but we'll try to take a little pride in what we do here and have a nice base to build off of so we don't have some weird bumps going on down there that our tail has to try to line up nice and straight. For our tail, we're going to use some marabou for the toad. Black, I've got 2 real nice quills that I'm really not going to worry too much about how we might splay feathers with a lot of patterns. I'm just going to lay these guys right on top of each other, and then I don't know, roughly just a little under 2 times the shank of the hook. I don't need this to be ginormously hanging out the back, but I definitely want to have a healthy little tail, so you can kind of see what we're working with there. All right, that's going to work out well. So just a nice pinch there. Give it a couple securing wraps right on top of the hook shank. And that's definitely going to hold it. And definitely save this stuff. You can use it for other patterns, but there's a lot of really good stuff there, so I would definitely not throw that away. Get the most for your buck with this material stuff. And it looks pretty good. And now, as kind of an accent color, I'm going to use some purple. I'm going to tie this kind of in a classic color, and I don't need a super lot, just a little bit. And when I'm actually going to cut this ahead of time. And then I'm going to just sort of envelop the hook. I'm not stacking it on top. You know, I could do a dubbing loop here and go through that whole process. But again, we just want a nice little accent color in there. Trim up a lot of this extra material. Gotta love marabou, it makes a mess, gets everywhere. If you don't notice it everywhere, your significant other probably will. So it's definitely one of those materials that cleaning as you go can really save you some time. If you're the kind of person that holds your breath the whole time you're tying, then you'll have less of a problem, but it's going to get everywhere. You just need to accept that fact. All right, next material that we're going to use in here, just to help with the transition between our tail and our toad head is, I'm going to use a little bit of foxy brush. Just a couple turns to give it a little bit of shape, you know, so we get a nice transition off of that toad head into the tail. So we don't end up with like a circle and a little bit of marabou hanging out the back. It's not what we're going for. We just want a little bit of shape here. So 2 or 3 turns. Here's 1 turn, and I'm just going to go 1 more because I don't want this to become a completely different shape. I'm just wanting to give it a little bit of structure coming off of the toad head, like I said. And this is a foxy brush in black. You know, purple would probably work real well here, mostly because I got purple as that accent color. Honestly, the reason I'm using black is I didn't want to open a package just for this video, even though I think it would look really cool. But I'm just trying to be smart with the materials that I've got to work with. So you can see here, as we splay in our yarn, the yarn's going to set either side of that. And I just think a little bit of structure there is a good thing, so we don't end up with a little gap on the back side there. All right, there's a number of materials that you could use to do the toad head. EP fiber works great. There's Congo hair. There's a number of other items that you can use, but today we're going to use This is old Aunt Lydia's yarn. It works really, really well. It's just been out of production for a lot of years. And so I've managed to find some online, and now we can, you can get it here in 10-foot lengths. We got, I think, 23 different colors right now. Stuff works really well. It's very translucent, combs out real nice. And another nice thing about it is I've pre-made some of my lengths here, about 1-inch lengths, is each time you get one of these bundles, it will be the same amount of material, which is very convenient. It will help you have more uniform ties. But the other real nice thing is I think it's a little bit easier to tie in the yarn versus the individual fibers. Very doable with the fibers, don't get me wrong, but if that's something you've kind of shied away from in the past because it just, was a little bit maddening for you, you might find this quite a bit easier. So I like to just do an X-wrap. I pinch it down once, position it where I want it, and then I'll do a second X-wrap. That's somebody trying to give me a call in the middle of the video. Oh, that's nice. So once I've got it positioned, I'll put a nice couple turns in front, and that's locked in place. It's not going anywhere. And so I'm gonna try to do this a little bit tilted here, just so you get a little better shot at it. I typically do not tie at an angle like this, but like I said, that way you get a better shot of the X-wrap. And there was one. And then I can slide it a little bit, hold it in place, and go for my next set of X-wraps. A few X-wraps is gonna hold it in place and give it a final little tug, and then 1 or 2 turns in front. And then it's just a matter of kind of repeating this process, working our way forward. I'm gonna do a couple black, a couple purple. Why not? Kind of keep this theme going as we go ahead. Move it back, pinch it down. But you can see it's a little bit easier to tie around with this yarn for this style hat. And once you get a groove going, you'll be well on your way. The thread you're using isn't super critical. This happens to be 140 denier. 210 would be fine too, but I like something that's not gonna build up very much here. It's not the end of the world if it did, but I kind of want to be controlling the narrative as much as I can here with the shape of my fly. Busy day here in the shop. Phone's ringing off the hook like usual, but that's a good thing. All right. So I got a little bit of, and of course, a little bit of alternating colors here going with this pattern. Again, it's 100% up to you how you want to set that up. But I've just got a little bit of black going in the back there, a little purple in the front. And then for this pattern, I am going to use some mono eyes. This happens to be just a pink color. You could use, of course, these mono, bead chain. You could use some dumbbell lead eyes if you wanted to sink this pattern down quite a bit further. We like from Rainey, some of these, they call them booby eyes, so they're foam shaped. And so that can, by the choice of your eyes, just the eyes alone even, you can really determine where your toad is gonna ride in the water. And I always like a bit of a contrasting color with the eyes. Not so much to entice and eat from the fish, but I really need to be able to see this fly. So fishing this in darker water, maybe this little bit of hot pink color here will help me to see it a little better. So similar to any other kind of dumbbell eyes or bead chain, did some X-wraps, doing a couple series of under wraps as well. Be careful with these mono eyes. I think, they can break. And one of the reasons that happens is if you over tighten them. So I like to secure them, don't get me wrong, but then I will usually put a little drop of resin down in there. Not a whole bunch, because I don't want to add a lot of weight with the resin, but I definitely want to protect those eyes. All right, we'll just finish this off with a whip finish. And our tie is effectively done, like we just talked about. I'm going to go ahead and Put a drop of resin in here. Again, doesn't take much. This happens to be thick UV resin. I really like it because it gives me a lot of time. Now, if you've got it on exactly how you want it, then you're going to need to wait a little while, let it really kind of ooze down into all the nooks and crannies, make sure. But I just like having that little bit of time allows me to make sure it's really where I want it before I go ahead and set it. And since I was already putting some around the mono eyes, I went ahead and just ran a bead down along in the thread wraps on the bottom. That's just to help give it a little more durability. In general, I'm not a huge fan of using super glues in fly tying. I just think a lot of times it's extra. But I am going to put a little bit of Zap-A-Gap on the tops of these X-wraps. And the reason is we're going to get a little aggressive with combing out this carpet yarn. And so I just really want to make sure I don't undo my fly before I've even finished it. So we're going to let that set up a little bit. And so we can see here, we've got a real nice flat head that's all set up. But you can see clearly that's carpet yarn, excuse me. And so next in the process will be to comb it out. Bodkin will be really like your best tool in the beginning here to just get the most of the twist out. You can see it's twisted up. So we're going to try to get just the bigger stuff there. And then once we've done that, it's really hard to beat one of these EP finger brushes. So that'll be kind of our second stage. Take your time on this. Honestly, usually what I'll do is I'll tie up a couple, set them to the side, and then I'll just comb and trim at the very end. But as you can see here, I'll grab on the back side, and then I'm going to really get aggressive with untwisting this. If all you have is a bodkin, you can do that. You can make do with it. It's going to take you longer. Nothing wrong with that if you're not in a big hurry. And then the other thing is you can just use a regular plastic comb if need be, kind of one of the old school Ace style combs. And get this other side out a little bit here. All right, coming along pretty good. And now, I'm going to lock it in here so you can see a little better. Again, I like to pinch on that backside, and I get relatively aggressive with this finger brush. And by the time you get done combing out this yarn, you'll never even know that it was carpet yarn. Very, very translucent, very popular material for flies like this. Merkin crab bodies, carapaces, it's great for that. You can dub it up for like bonefish snapping shrimp style flies. It's really, really great stuff. You can do a lot with it. It's been around for a real, real long time. So there's a pretty good chance that you've actually thrown a fly, that if you've purchased one from somebody, that they use this stuff. It's great. Again, one of the harder parts is just sourcing it. So, all right, I'm gonna, as I get ready to trim here, kind of control my marabou here. I like to use one of these little hair clips here. It is not mine. Well, I mean, it's mine now for fly tying, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tease out all this carpet yarn. I got a little bit there on the bottom that could be trimmed a little better, but you can see that foxy brush in there now is kind of tapering. So, and so what I'm going to do when I cut this is I'm going to use as a guide my mono eyes, and I'm going to just trim it back. I'm going to take quite a bit of the material off, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to use my good scissors. These scissors from EP Flies, I mean, these things are great. So anytime I'm trimming game changers or any kind of trimming, that's all I use these for, and they are great for that. So I'm going to start with this top one, kind of rest. Probably in just about a single cut, I'll get exactly what I want for the shape. I like to invert the fly and really try to get it matching from left to right side, because as this gets stripped through the water, we don't want this to be curly Q and all over the place. We really want to try to keep it I like that one right there, so we need to duplicate that. And so now we've got a real nice profile. I like that shape quite a bit. That's going to work out real nice. And so it's a tarpon toad. It's not anything new. There's a lot of variations that you can do to this pattern. You can have a lot of fun with it. And one of the great things is, like we talked about, between the eyes and some of the materials you're choosing, you can tie these so that they go deep. You can tie them so that they stay on the surface with an all foam head. You can also, in my opinion, the ideal situation is probably about 2 to 3 inches right below the surface. And if you get a fly that is tracking at that point in the water column, I think that is exactly what you're after when it comes to tarpon. If you enjoyed this pattern and you want to go ahead and tie it yourself, down in the comment section we have links to all the materials that we used. And if you got any questions at all about the pattern itself or why we chose certain items today, go ahead and ask in the comments questions and we'll be glad to get those answered for you.